expected that Russell Pearce was not going to show up, but we wanted the show to go on. We want to be able to say Russell Pearce didn't show up. Obviously, he doesn't think this issue is important enough, and that's what we're going to come out with on Monday. And Darrell is a prominent individual in the state of Arizona. He's a long-life Republican, and he served in a number of bishoprics within the LDS community. He was the individual who hosted or conducted our first Fireside in Mesa at the beginning of our recall, which was extremely successful. We filled up the room primarily with members of the LDS community, leaders within the LDS community, and that's sort of what brought attention with regard to Utah's stance and how Utah and the Mormon leadership in Salt Lake City are compassionate to the immigrant situation, and that was evident with the Utah Compact. We're going to be bringing the Arizona Compact into the state of Arizona. We do have our sponsor, and we're excited about that, considering that this state received a bad reputation on the immigrant issue. So I want to welcome Darrell. He gives an outstanding presentation. He's a commercial trial lawyer, so he has that aura about him, and thank you so much.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. And she said my name incorrectly. It's Darrell.
Darrell.
It's my mother's fault. I correct her a lot. And I find myself in somewhat of an unusual position because typically I'm in the courtroom where right and wrong doesn't matter. It is win or lose. And so I work to win in the courtroom, and I have an audience of 8 people. And so I feel very comfortable with an 8-person audience because that's who I have to convince that I should win. I'm involved here because I think there's a right and wrong issue here. I got involved initially because a member of my family wanted me to be a Minuteman down on the border, get my gun, go down there and help patrol the border. And I thought, well, okay. And but let me think about it first, because having been a trial lawyer for 35 years, I've persuaded myself that I need to understand the issues a little more than the 30-second soundbite that you hear on television or that you hear when people are just discussing things. I was very cognizant in the process of this particular quote that I put up on the screen. This particular quote is from a book by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was in Germany, Austria, and Hitler read his book before Sigmund Freud left. And I always thought it was interesting that he pointed out, and Hitler understood, that a group is extraordinarily credulous, open to influence. It has no critical faculty. And so when you begin to speak in front of a group, even me in front of a group like this, you are going to have people who are for you or against you, and they're going to listen for the sound bites, and if they agree with you, they're going to agree. If they disagree, they're not going to agree. Even in the courtroom, I have found that jurors, if they accept the evidence because it fits their prejudice and predilection, then they accept it. If it's contrary to that, they go, well, he would just say that. That's because this group has no critical faculty. It doesn't exist for it. It thinks in images which call up by association, and therefore, as I've highlighted, if anyone, you need to show that. Are you videotaping that? Yeah, turn your camera over there and show that. Anyone who wishes to produce an effect upon it needs no logical adjustment is argued, but he must paint in the most forcible colors. He must exaggerate, and he must represent the same thing again and again. If there is no issue in a case in the courtroom, the case is likely to settle. If it doesn't settle, then you end up with how do you persuade this group, and you use group psychology like this. It has always interested me, therefore, that people will use these sorts of things. And of course, one of the things I liked best about the last campaign in the United States was Mr. Obama. I he ran a superb campaign because he said over and over again, change you can believe in. And he was following this group psychology of what you do if you want to persuade the group. Now, there are some other things that happen around, and we get things like this. And we've all laughed at this. What part of no don't you understand? And people who laugh at that, they know that, well, they think that things are black and white, and that it's as simple as a yes or a no. And I myself, in the courtroom, have forced witnesses to answer a question with either a yes or a no, when in fact I have known, as the cross-examining lawyer, that the question is far more complex than that. How about this one? What part of illegal don't you understand? That is a refrain that we hear a lot in the immigration debate. And so it's very, very prevalent. The problem that we have is that people don't think deeply about the issues. Now, if Mr. Pearce were here, and he being a good Mormon, I would ask him why it was that he used repeatedly these refrains and the comments about illegality. And what part of illegal don't you understand? And don't you know that they're beheading people out there? I guess that was our fine governor who was saying that. Because when you are doing this, to return to my comment by Mr. Freud again, what you got is argument, colors, you exaggerate, and you say the same thing over and over again. And it has impact upon those who vote because they don't think deeply. And so the challenge whenever you have a complex issue is to get people to think about it carefully so that they can understand what those issues are and therefore make intelligent decisions. Now, I'm going to show you a scripture out of the Mormon Doctrine and Covenants because I think Mr. Pearce ought to be thinking about this. Now you gotta understand, I'm religious. I am a Mormon. I consider myself as Christian a person as there is walking upon the